life doesn't change people all at once. It's a quiet process, happening through small moments you never expect to notice. Lin Fang and Mike were still living on opposite sides of the world. Their paths had not yet crossed. But every single day, life was teaching them something new about how to belong, or perhaps, how to endure. Lin Fang had been in the United States for several months now. The initial overwhelming feeling was starting to fade, replaced by a kind of functional familiarity. She no longer got lost on the subway, her mental map of the labyrinthine tunnels now solid. She knew which streets felt safe after dark and which to avoid, learning the city's unspoken geography. She could follow most conversations, picking up on the rhythm and flow of English, even if she rarely felt confident enough to join in. But understanding the words was not the same as accepting the culture behind them. One afternoon, she finished a long shift at a small restaurant tucked away on a side street. She had found the job through a friend of a friend, a temporary helper, paid in cash, completely off the books. It was the kind of work many new immigrants found. In the steamy, chaotic kitchen, no one asked personal questions. Everyone just worked, fast and focused, heads down, lost in the clatter of pots and pans. It was a space of shared purpose, even if it was unspoken. After her shift, she sat down at a small table to eat, feeling the exhaustion settle into her bones. She ordered a simple meal, and as she ate, she calculated the bill carefully in her mind. Main dish, plus tax. She was getting good at this mental arithmetic. She counted out the exact change, placed the bills and coins neatly on the table, and stood up to leave. But the waitress, a young woman with tired eyes, hesitated. She approached the table and spoke softly, almost apologetically. "Ma'am, the tip is not included." Lin Fang froze. It was only for half a second, but in that moment the world seemed to stop. Back in China, paying the bill was the end of the transaction. Money closed the conversation. Here, it seemed to open a new, more complicated one. Flustered, she fumbled in her purse and added a few dollars to the table, feeling a wave of awkwardness. Was it too much, too little? She had no idea. Walking out onto the busy street, a quiet discomfort settled over her, a feeling she couldn't quite name. It wasn't about the money itself. It was about feeling so completely unprepared, as if she had unknowingly broken an invisible sacred rule. It was another reminder that she was an outsider, still learning the complex dance of social expectations. Over time she learned. She learned to leave tips at restaurants, at cafes, at hair salons, and even for the person who delivered her occasional late-night food order. She learned the unspoken percentages, the subtle cues of service quality. Each time she did it, she hesitated just a little less. The action became more automatic, a muscle memory of cultural adaptation. But sometimes she still found herself caught off guard by the simple differences. In China, getting a discount felt like an act of kindness, a warm, personal gesture. Here in America, generosity often felt like it came with a calculation, a system. A buy one get one free coupon wasn't a gift, it was a marketing strategy. Late at night, after a long day of work and navigating these subtle cultural currents, she would go back to her small room and heat up leftovers in a tiny microwave. The food often tasted unfamiliar, a pale imitation of the flavors of home. But she ate slowly, deliberately. She was beginning to realize that acceptance didn't arrive like a sudden revelation. It came in these small daily compromises, one bite at a time. Meanwhile, in China, Mike's days followed a completely different rhythm. As a visiting professor at a university, his schedule was surprisingly light. His modern apartment had been fully furnished and waiting for him when he arrived. A university driver was on call downstairs whenever he needed to go somewhere. Everything was arranged, everything was taken care of, and yet, paradoxically, nothing felt natural. It was a life of manufactured ease that left him feeling strangely disconnected. One morning, he decided to make coffee. He rummaged through the kitchen cabinets, finding a sleek electric kettle on the counter. In his mind, kettles were either for tea or were purely decorative. He couldn't find a coffee maker. Shrugging, he just drank a glass of cold water from the tap instead. Later that day, a colleague from the university stopped by his office. Noticing he didn't have a drink, She gently poured him a cup of hot water from a large thermos she carried everywhere. "For your stomach," she said, with a casual, matter-of-fact smile. Mike smiled back, though he didn't quite understand. Why hot water? Why was everyone here always drinking hot water, even on a warm day? It was a mystery. Laundry became another one of his quiet personal challenges. His apartment had a modern washing machine, but to his surprise, no dryer. There was only a balcony with a clothes rack. So he hung his clothes out to dry, carefully spacing them apart, and then checked the weather app on his phone twice a day as if he could will the sun to do its job faster. But the next morning, his shirts were still damp, clinging stubbornly to the rack. A friendly colleague saw his predicament and laughed warmly. "Just wait," she advised. "They'll dry." And she was right. Eventually they did. He started to notice that time here did not rush. Efficiency wasn't the highest value, comfort was. People walked slower on the crowded sidewalks. Meals stretched on for hours, filled with conversation and shared dishes. No one seemed to mind waiting in line or waiting for a friend. At first, this slower pace unsettled him. He was used to a life of deadlines, schedules, and constant motion. The stillness felt unproductive. Then, slowly, it started to soften him. He began to enjoy the long lunches. He stopped checking his watch every 5 minutes. He learned to appreciate the simple act of waiting, of just being present. So here they were, living their parallel lives. Lin Fang was learning how to follow unwritten rules she never really agreed to, becoming more pragmatic, more guarded. Mike was learning how to slow down in a world that didn't demand constant speed, becoming more patient, more observant. At night, thousands of miles apart, their routines mirrored each other in a strange way. Lin Fang would sit on her bed and count her tips from the restaurant, calculating her earnings, wondering when life would finally feel stable and secure. At that very same hour, Mike would stand on his balcony, watching his laundry sway gently in the evening breeze. Realizing that for the first time in years, he was not in a hurry to be anywhere at all. Neither of them knew it yet. But these small, seemingly insignificant moments, the hesitation before leaving a tip, the surprising warmth of a cup of plain hot water, the quiet patience of waiting for clothes to dry were profoundly changing them. Not through some grand ambition, and not through a twist of fate, but simply through the quiet, persistent, and transformative power of life itself. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more episodes.